Get ready to pay more for petrol. Beginning midnight tonight, all oil companies are going to hike prices of petrol by 5 rupees a litre. This is the 9th hike in petrol prices in the last 9 months and the steepest hike ever. The government has freed oil prices from government control in June, but the state-owned oil firms, they had not raised prices on an informal mandate or diktat from the oil ministry. It's interesting that this increase in petrol prices, which the oil firms had been holding on to, it has now been announced just a day after election results from 5 state assemblies that were announced. But of course, how this impacts you is something that we all understand. 5 rupees is a huge margin when it is added to your petrol bills. But then how do companies, oil companies, get impacted? R.S. Butola, chairman of IOC, joins us right now on the phone line. Mr. Butola, good evening. Thanks very much for speaking to NDTV Profit. Petrol prices were deregulated, right? But IOC did not hike prices since January 16th. Were you waiting for elections in 5 states to get over? And was this a mandate that came from the government?
Let me just tell you that the companies take their decision based on their assessment of the international crude prices. And if you look at the international crude oil prices, they spurted beyond $125 because of the internal strife in certain countries. Sure. And one was expecting that the prices may stabilize, they may fall down, and that was the view of most of the analysts who carry out research on the oil prices, etc. So one was expecting that let the crude oil prices come down, But we have now observed a period of time that the crude oil prices did fall down from $125 to $115, $116, but they have been hovering around $113, $117, and we don't see them really getting down significantly. At the same time, the way our borrowings are increasing, in last 45 days, we had to borrow 15,000 crores from the market. And it's really becoming impossible for us to manage. So we are left with no option but to increase the petrol prices. And if you look at the price, we have gone for a 5 rupee increase, but still the gap is, we should have increased by 10 rupee 50 paisa.
Right. So, of course, like you were just mentioning, this price hike may not be enough to cover all your losses. At the moment, if I'm correct, it amounts to about 10 rupees per litre on petrol. So you still lose about 5 rupees per litre on petrol. So why just a partial price hike?
You're right, we should have increased by 10 rupee 50 paisa. But given the fact that we have not really increased the prices since 16 January of this year, and the fact that we have waited for some time seeing the international crude oil prices behavior, we didn't want, and in view of the inflation and other circumstances, we didn't want to pass the burden so heavily to the consumers immediately. But the way our borrowings are going ahead, we'll watch over a couple of days again, and if we see no respite, we will have no option but to go for another hike.
Any indication, sir, of how much that hike is likely to be or when? I know you said you will have to watch the situation closely.
Yes, as of now, we should go by another increase of 5 rupee 50 paisa, but, the crude prices in the last 2-3 days have fallen to under $13, and we'll have to wait and also at the same time see how our borrowings, how our liquidity is getting affected. And depending on these factors, maybe shortly we would like to go for another hike.
All right, shortly, but you're not going to perhaps give us a timeline for that yet. All right, Mr. Butola, what about your losses from other products like diesel or LPG, kerosene? What is the loss every day from each of these products?
We are losing on all the products approximately 300 crores every day. And, the loss per day, if you ask me on the diesel alone, it will be almost almost 40% of that. I don't have the exact number, but what I can tell you that in terms of per liter, the current selling price of diesel is 37 rupees 75 paisa.
Okay.
And whereas at the current prices, international price, it should be 55 rupee 94 paisa, and we are losing 18 rupees 19 paisa per liter. So that's the kind of a loss. And similarly on SKO, we are losing 29 rupees 69 paisa. And on LPG, the retail prices should have been increased by 329 rupees 73 paisa.
Okay.
So all this makes 300 crores per day of under recovery for us.
Right. So 300 crores every day, out of which you said 40% almost amounts from diesel itself. Have you heard anything on deregulation of diesel, sir?
This is a decision which the government has to take, and we have been constantly taking up the matter with the government, and we are confident that the government will also soon have to take a view on this.
Okay, so you haven't had any, you don't know any timeline or as such about deregulation of diesel. So anything on the LPG front? You just mentioned you're losing about 29 rupees.
329 rupees 73 paisa per cylinder, and because these are still the products where the decision is taken by the government, and we get reimbursement from the government, albeit not at 100% level. But we have been taking up with the government that we should continue to get 100% compensation. So far, the government doesn't take in view on increasing the prices. So our position is that either compensate us 100% or have the increase in the prices affected.
Right. Sir, just last question. I know that this is a decision that the government will have to take, and the empowered group of ministers is probably likely to meet on the 23rd of this month to take a call. Any idea of what the minister's thinking might be on diesel? NDTV Profit seems to understand from sources that a one-time hike might be considered in diesel as opposed to a complete deregulation. Will you be happy with that?
Of course, we would be. That's the case we have been making with the government, that the company should be allowed the freedom, and as we also have to behave in a very responsible manner, and we also watch the situation over a period of time. But we'd be happy if the government deregulates the diesel prices as had been indicated in the past. But should that wait for some more time, or the government take its position on that, our request is that we should be reimbursed on 100% basis, and that's what we have been telling the government. And the other request we have been telling the government that whatever is to be done, the way we are to be reimbursed, or the way on these regulated products, the way the pricing is to be done, at least there should be transparency, and a transparent formula should be established at how the companies are going to be reimbursed, how their liquidity is going to be mitigated.
Sure. Mr. Botola, thanks very much for taking time out this Saturday evening to talk to us and give us more view about what you must be going through in terms of high oil prices, and perhaps that there might be another rate increase in petrol prices going ahead. We don't have a timeline yet from Mr. Botola, but another 5 rupee hike is very much possible.